welcome to the Dads with Nerdy Ambitions podcast. I'm your host, Steve Pugh, and I was supposed to be joined by my co-host, the wonderful, the adorable, the impeccable, and the ever talkative Kevin Bobbins. Unfortunately, he decided he had to be on daddy duty tonight, so he's not joining me. However, in his latenance and lack thereof duties, I have the wonderful, the adorable Jess Rowling, who from Fable, you got to hear her beautiful voice, as well as I have John Bristol of Elmwood Puppets. So I've got you guys both on the show tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are going to be talking about puppets.
Okay.
Which is an everyday thing for you guys. Like, I'm curious. We'll get into the actual interview here, but I want to know, like, John, you have a plethora of puppets in the background, and we were kind of talking a little bit about.
Oh yeah. Most of the ones behind me are toys or dolls, but right there,
yes,
that's Todd. He's a real puppet, a real boy. He's a real puppet that was in our first movie, Josh and Todd. He was the main character. He's missing his feet, but he's otherwise right there. He's about 4'11" when he stands up all the way too.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's a full body
than
puppet.
me, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Taller than you. And he's a character. He was it was an R-rated movie. It's pretty wild. Yeah.
I'm not against it. I'm definitely gonna have to check this out.
It's free on YouTube, so yeah. But yeah, so I'm surrounded by. I have a couple more older puppets, like in a case over here on the wall. But
okay,
pick those up. They're like.
Jess, how many do you have?
How many puppets do I have?
Like, is there a bunch around? Like, when you wake up in the morning, guys, do you like just see puppets like to the side, like Annabelle style? Like,
No.
You want to answer that first, or do you want me to answer?
No.
Yeah, no.
I have one puppet. It's actually John's puppet, a new character for a series that Elmwood does called Animal Behavior, and she is a cat. I'm not going to show her to you because she's a new character. So
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
We
haven't even filmed this second season yet, but yeah.
But she's modeled off of John's cat.
So if she comes in and comes up and sits right here, you'll actually see her.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
the real cat.
We're used to having animals and children like randomly come in on the podcast. It happens all the time, and I giggle about it. Like, it's the best.
And my basement is literally full of bins of puppets. That's where we store them usually. I tried to fill my house with them because I don't want to like overdo it all the time. You know, I have a whole studio I build them in. I have my basement with the studio we film stuff in. So seasonally I'll have a couple here and there, or if we're working on a project and they're out, or if I'm working on something I'll bring it in the house to work on. But I only have the ones that are in this room really in my house right now, in my office. So yeah.
So you build them too?
I'm the primary builder, for the company. So in my house right now, in the basement, there's probably a few hundred.
All right. So
the history of Elmwood is in my basement. If my house burned down, we'd be in trouble. They're insured, so.
So, what in somebody's life made them decide? What made you decide that you wanted to build puppets?
I was a puppet nerd as a kid. I didn't know that thing could exist. That term could exist, really. Now it's a thing. But like when I was younger, I loved the Muppets, loved Sesame Street, loved like any show that came on TV with puppets. I had to watch it even if I didn't like it. Just, like the way they look, like the tangibility of it. Like you could actually maybe touch Grover. You couldn't touch Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse wasn't something unless you went to Disney World. But like that's a guy in a costume. Don't tell the little kids that. But there's something real to it that you didn't get with animated characters or comic books and things like that. I love comics too. And I just really thought that was cool. And often throughout my life, I would build a puppet here and there for fun, like out of a doll or things like that, but never took it seriously. But thought it was fun and played with like my toy puppets, tons of those when I was a kid. And then I started really getting into comics and started drawing comic books and like doing comics and making that a possible career, doing commercial art, things like that. And me and some buddies one year we had this comic strip we were working on. I was drawing and a couple of us were writing it. And we knew it wasn't going to go anywhere because it wasn't something that people would really want to read. It was more personal and silly. And And I made the joke that we should make a movie out of it instead. How hard can movies be to make? Everyone get a video camera now. It's, you make a movie. This is like 97 maybe.
Okay.
And around that same time, a bunch of us got together, the same guys and our girlfriends, and we got together to watch Muppet Christmas Carol at Christmas time. And when it was over, I'm like, we should take that idea of the comic that we were doing as a movie, but make puppets of them, because we're not good looking enough to be on screen. So if we make puppets instead of it being us, people will pay attention. And within a year, it took over my life. It became like the primary art form I wanted to do. Like I just started really learning it. And by 2002, so like that was 97, 98, within 4 years, we were working on what became Josh and Todd and Steve the Vampire and all that.
Yes, we're going to
a
talk
real
about
thing.
we're going to talk about Steve the Vampire
All
over
right.
here. I feel like this interview was destined to happen. But so did you go to college? How did you learn to do this?
I studied a lot of other artists, a lot of the other puppeteers and puppet builders. Some of it was like early internet, so you couldn't just go online and go on YouTube and find tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
So anything I could find with like a puppet in it, I would watch, or behind the scenes footage, if I can get a hold of that, go to any shows that were happening. Fortunately, in Connecticut, we do have UConn, which is the only one of 2 colleges in the country that can give a degree in puppetry. I had no interest in doing that because I just didn't want to have to take 3 different math classes and 12 science classes to learn how to do puppets. But you could go there and like see puppets in person at their museum. They have a gallery, the Logo Museum, the Institute, they call it space and things like that. So that was good. You go down there, you get your hands on them a little. And it was that was helpful. And then I just tried to seek out other puppeteers and just meet people and get their brains. And then the internet got bigger, and it still wasn't the biggest thing in the world even by 2002. There wasn't, YouTube didn't even exist yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd find things online about puppet making and just scour what little of the internet there was at that point to learn. And so a lot of it was self-taught. I really learned how to build on my own, and puppetry was just going to auditions and failing just so I could see how people were puppeteering in person and things like that. Like I knew I wouldn't get the part, but I wanted to go because I didn't want the part, because I'm not really a big live theater guy either. I love it, but I don't want to do it. But I'd go to the audition for like a big puppet show to see puppeteers, and that was cool. And just making connections. So and practicing. And now I'm a bastard about it with my crew.
Like when I imagine you go into, and I know this isn't really how it happens, but like everything in my mind, you have a puppet on your hand. So I just imagine you going to these meet and greets with people and just almost not ventriloquism, but like you have a puppet, but like it is an art. And I half made the joke, like the college, is it a vocation or something? I didn't know if it actually fell under a specific like special effects thing of
UConn, I think that's part of their theater program technically,
okay.
But they do it, but they're really starting to do more with the television and film industry with the program. But it's definitely like a vocation, because you got to figure, like, people don't think about it, but the Snuggle Bear, this commercial, that's a puppet. You kind of forget about that. Grogu, Yoda, the puppets. E.T. was a puppet. I mean, there was more to it than just this, but that's the soul. That hand is the soul. So.
And you guys got to have. So I did a little bit, and I don't even want to say it qualifies, but like long time ago.
You put your hand in it and you put it up in the air.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, we did a in Virginia, we did a puppet thing, and we had puppets, and we did this like little story thing. And I remember my hand being up here and having to angle down my hand and claw it and and I just remember like my arm hurting. Like, do you guys have to exercise for that? Do you just like keep your arms up like that, just up in the air, just do singular pull-ups or something of that sort?
It's practice, and sometimes we'll buddy up with each other too, and smush together and hold each other's arms in the air.
And your arm will get tired. Someone might lean up against your back on the ground and hold your arm up for you if you're getting tired. But like it's a lot of just keep practicing keeping your arm up. With a weight. It's better to do it with a puppet than not, because if you do it all the time like this, then you put the puppet on and your whole dynamic is different once you're in the puppet. So it's like it's better to have a puppet on. But
just hold a 10-pound dumbbell over your head while watching Game of Thrones.
So I'll pick like one of the heavier puppets I have and just sit there like while I'm watching TV and try to lip sync along with the show or something. Some music, just to keep the arm up, and I've been doing it forever. I'm still like sometimes like shaking and in pain, but yeah, it's awesome.
Wow. That's like, I'm laughing because it's awesome. It really, it's just things I don't ever think about. And these are passions for you guys. These are the things that you love and enjoy doing. And this is your nerd fandom. And
And
it's something
that's how I met Jess. Was she was doing a puppet show,
you did a puppet show
and
first.
I went to watch it. Like,
Okay.
yeah, she was a friend we have in common is a theater director named Keith Paul. Had her in a show. He didn't write it, I don't think. No, he didn't write it.
No, he
But he
didn't
was
write it.
directing it at this event. It was a short piece, and we were at the same event doing something, screening films. It was like this big art event that was in Bridgeport, like 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And I was down there in the same building doing our thing, but I could sneak away because it was a screening, because I heard there was this puppet show on the 4th floor, and I'm like, I gotta go see this thing with the puppet. And that's when I met her and Keith, and yeah, and I watched her do it and do it well. So I'm like, hey, there's my cat. That's your cat. I saw your cat. Thought it was mine because mine's right here. You can't see it.
Yeah.
But,
Doug just walked in too.
oh, it's Doug. Cool.
It was
And
Doug.
but we yeah, so that's how we met.
All right.
It was on a puppet show.
So Jess,
Yeah.
when I asked you at Fable, and I this is how adorable she is. She was so excited that we were just sitting there talking, and I was running on cloud 9. I was exhausted, and I asked her. I was like, "Wow, you have this beautiful voice. I would love to talk to you about your singing. We should definitely get you on." And I'm like, "Hey, do you do anything nerdy?" She goes, "No." And then she goes, "Oh, I read all the Lord of the Rings books and watched all the movies like in a month." And I was like, "Wow, that's impressive." And then as I'm about to leave, she goes, "I do puppets." And I was like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, Elmwood Productions." I'm like, "Why do I know that name?" I'm like, "Punk Rock Flea Market." And she goes, "Yes." I'm like, "Oh my God, we got to talk about this."
Yeah.
So, Jess, you play a ukulele, you sing, and you do puppets. How did you get into puppeteering?
So like John, I was very into the Muppets. And anything exactly like you said, anything tangible. So I was also very into claymation films, anything that looked like you could touch it or it was being touched. And Sesame Street, the way the characters interacted with the humans on the television show was just floored me. And Muppet Treasure Island is one of my favorite films. Of course, it's a musical with puppets. And oh gosh, I started playing around with shadow puppets and that kind of puppeteering in my undergrad. I was a theater major, so I played around a little bit with puppets that way. And but like full body shadow puppeteering, where like you're the puppet. And then my friend Keith, about the first time we did this show, is called Jumper, was 13 years ago or so. We performed this one-act play. It was the premiere of the one-act play in an art gallery, and it was so much fun. I was very inexperienced, and but still such a blast. He needed someone that could like sound dry and peppy at the same time, and I just happened to fall into that category. And then a couple of years passed, and he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'm doing this art festival in Bridgeport." And I was like, "Oh, great, because I graduated college and I'm much better at acting now, so we can really make this a thing." And and I did it. And the thing that I love about puppets is that there's a distancing between who you are as a person and who the puppet is. So you can say anything inside of a puppet, and it's really allows you to sort of stretch that creativity more so than just acting a part.
And you're not stuck in the shell people say.
Yeah, you have this extra bit of separation, which I really loved. And sorry, Doug is just opening the door to my studio trying to leave. Go on, fatty, you can do it. There you go.
Oh. Oh wait, that's the dog you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's what I really loved about it. And then yeah, after our show, we were wandering around the festival, and sat in on the screening for, were you screening Head? Was that the film you were doing?
No, we hadn't even shot Head yet. We
Okay.
were screening Steve the Vampire.
Okay, I remember it was a horror.
Yeah, Steve the Vampire and some other shorts like on a loop.
Okay.
So and some of the rough draft of Animal Behavior.
Okay,
We
yeah.
shot that whole show twice.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we canceled it and reshot it because we hated it, but didn't hate it. I shouldn't say that. It wasn't as good as it could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did. It was a lot of Steve the Vampire that, and I think we were showing Josh and Todd too, depending on.
Okay, yeah, I was like,
At
there was
night, we
definitely
showed
some
Josh and
blood,
Todd.
I think. Like there was something
Probably Steve,
happening.
yeah.
So we walked in and John approached me and said, I saw your stuff. This is really great. Would you ever want to come work with us? And I was like, no.
Nerd.
Oh, you fucking weirdos.
Playing with dolls.
But
Ew.
then Keith ended up linking up with them, and I hadn't done puppetry in so long, and I was like, Keith, I need to have fun. I can't, like, I'm getting pigeonholed in these different roles and typecast, and I'm so over it. I need to do something fun and funny. And he was like, Elmwood needs another girl. I said, great. And I showed up and it was John, and I was like,
that guy, I forgot about that guy. Yeah. But like, yeah, like that's what she said about the puppetry thing. It's great because you can be anything, male, female, monster, vampire, doesn't matter. You can play any part. Like, yeah, it doesn't, as long as you can get the character down.
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
It makes me want to do a puppet. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey.
excited. I'm like, I want a puppet.
There you go. We can make it happen. Like
but
I
I'm
played
also
God.
like,
That's nothing like me. I don't look anything like that. But I played that and people believed it. I didn't even really change my voice. I just pitched up a little, but
there you go.
the character's a bit more obnoxious than me, but it's similar. So
I think we put a little bit of ourselves, just a tiny bit of ourselves into our characters. I can relate to this a little bit from the DM point of view, running D&D games, because I don't do voices well, or I think I can, especially when I have more alcohol in me. They all end up being Scottish for some weird reason. I don't understand why. But I like to get into the characters, and I get to be these characters, and I don't care what I do when I'm these characters, because I have some that I get very flirtatious and I get very provocative, as like well, in Icewind Dale, I was this mayor, and she was just like incredibly just like over the top, the best way to put it. And so it's fun to do that, and just making sure you don't get the uncomfortable, but have the comedic fun, and or versus being very serious and dark. And I love that. And I can relate to that as what you guys do in puppeteering. Yeah. And it's so neat, because I feel like, at least in the last, with the exception of maybe Sesame Street and the Muppets, who have been around for quite literally generations now, like legitimate generations, I feel like we're seeing a lot more of puppeteering in comedy shows, in movies. It's starting to become a lot more predominant. What's your theories on why that might be?
It goes in waves. I've seen like a good example is like 99 to 2002. There was a ton of new puppetry shows and movies coming out.
Okay.
And then it just kind of faded out because things got canceled. They didn't do well in the theater, things like that. And then it comes and goes, and it's always a catalyst. And I would say like the current catalyst was probably in 2011 when Disney really gave Muppets that big push with the movie, The Muppets. And it's just been kind of an uphill climb since. And even though The Muppets did some things that didn't do so well, you started seeing a lot of people leaning back on puppets for things because they realize it is tangible. You know, for commercial work, you can make a puppet and have it on set and have the puppeteer there, as opposed to like CG character, which is going to cost you there like hundreds of thousands of dollars, as opposed to a few thousand for a puppet, and then you pay your performer. Well, you got to pay your performer well if you can, but like, and it's immediate too. You have so your project is done quicker and things like that. That's why I think do things like The Mandalorian and the new Star Wars movies, where it had so much practical effects. Peter Jackson is huge on practical. You look at his Hobbit films, his Lord of the Rings films. He'll make everything as real as possible because it's real for the actors too.
Yeah.
You hear actors always complaining about how they're acting to a styrofoam ball on a stick.
Yeah.
that's where the character is going to be. It's like, it'd be easier if there was just the character was there.
Yeah, it strengthens the acting of the humans.
Yeah. They have to react and act. And imagine if Harrison Ford didn't have Chewbacca and it was a CG character. The original Star Wars would not have been as good. It would have been stiff. If anybody who's seen Call of the Wild with him will tell you that's how it would have been, because he acted to a styrofoam, a tennis ball, then they put a dog in later, and his performance was awful. And he's a great actor. He just can't act to that,
Mm-hmm.
So I think, but I do think it goes in waves, and I think part of it is the generational thing too. Because I grew up, I'm the original Muppet Show generation. I'm in my late 40s. I was 2 or 3 years old when I hit the air. I was 10 years. Sesame Street was about 10 years in, so that was like everything for my age group. It was like what Pokemon was in the 90s. You couldn't get away from the Muppets in the 70s and early 80s. They were everywhere. Every adults, kids, everybody wearing the t-shirts, dolls, toys, everywhere. It was like the biggest thing. And now we're the adults making the entertainment. The kids who grew up on the Star Wars trilogies, both of them are now making films and TV shows and theater. Jess is that generation. You're the more the 90s generation. So like, and she sees that, she's like Treasure Island, puppet musical.
Mm-hmm.
Those people were the ones that, were acting in Avenue Q. So it's like you're seeing, I think that's part of it. We loved it, so we want to do it.
Yeah.
We love
it, so we want to keep loving it.
Yeah.
I love that. And I'm also disappointed in both of you, because you guys didn't mention the best part of Treasure Island, which was Tim Curry. And his acting,
of course.
Yes, his acting with the puppets. And
his acting is strengthened because he's reacting to the puppets. Yeah.
And the exact opposite was beautiful in Christmas Carol, because Michael Caine played it completely straight.
Yeah.
Where Tim Curry acted like a Muppet, and it was perfect for that role. He tried to keep up with them, and he topped them, and that's how you have to do if you want to keep up with them. You have to be Charles Grodin and Great Muppet Caper. If you want to keep up with them, you have to beat them at it.
Yes.
Or you can do like O'Kane, where he played it, and he said it himself, like he was playing in the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Mm-hmm.
He played it completely straight, and there's no middle. I think if you're gonna act with the Muppets, either you go for it or you be the straight man.
Or you're incredibly sincere. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why those two movies are still so great now, because the humans that were in them. I mean, they're great. They're both two of my favorite Muppet movies. But this much higher on Christmas Carol, though. Sorry, but
really,
yeah.
Wow.
No. I think the music is better in it too. That's just me. I'm a big Paul Williams fan. As a songwriter, Paul Williams is one of my favorite songwriters, and he did that one too. So less Broadway feeling,
Yeah.
More pop feeling, but yeah.
I think I respect that. I respect your opinion. You're wrong, because Treasure Island definitely is the better of the two.
But the best one is still the original, the Muppet movie from '79. That is the best one. But
is that the one where they had the old Volkswagen Beetle, or not Volkswagen?
It's kind of like that. It was wagon. Woody.
Yes,
Woody,
yes.
The name was Studebaker or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
They drive across the country to go to Hollywood to be famous.
Yes. Wow. God, that's dating myself here. Just
a little bit.
Theater
when it was new, so that's dating myself. 1979. I was 4. And I still remember.
It's awesome. All right. So I know we kind of went from who you are, and talking about the pop culture and nerd culture of puppeteering. I feel like we should kind of talk about the history here. And I saw your guys' eyes light up when we were like the brief beforehand. So I'm bracing myself here, because I feel like there's
history
a long
of puppetry
history.
Or history of our puppetry.
Let's start with the history of puppetry itself, and then we'll go into you guys.
It's how do you?
So
it's been
Plato
around
was in a cave.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to the first forms of theater, when cavemen were moving rocks and pretending they were people to tell a story to each other. And bringing it to the U.S. We had the natives were here and doing it before anything. They were doing things with shows with characters, and it's so hard to just say what's the history in a nutshell. Because
how do you
so
go
many
from
different cultures have done it. And what was that?
I say, how do you go from a rock to a frog waving his arms up in the air?
Because that rock symbolized a frog in somebody's story.
Okay.
You got to figure that they didn't have the technology to make things the way we can make them now. There was a time in England when the only legal form of theater was puppetry. It was considered, theater was considered the devil's art, because it was people pretending to be things they're not, that God didn't create you to be. But puppets could do it. So there's different aspects of different times in history. And then you look at American pop culture, you hit the 1900s, and puppetry became a very kid thing, where before that it was aimed at, there were shows for kids. The Punch and Judy shows, over in Europe and England were totally for adults. Kids loved them because it was puppets hitting each other, but it's about domestic violence, like, and but when puppetry really started growing in the US, just to keep it more local for us, it became a kids entertainment, and that isn't fair. Like, it took years for, even when the Muppets hit, they weren't aimed generally at kids. Their first show was a late night show.
Really?
And they were part of the original season of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Like the first
They
season.
were late night variety shows.
Yeah.
Adult
They
humor.
their first show was in DC, like at 11 o'clock at night, right before the Tonight Show, at a local station, and it was just Muppets blowing each other up and making adults laugh.
Huh.
And that led to the commercials and the variety shows, and then the Sesame Street, because they wanted puppets, and they were like, "If we're doing puppets, we're doing these guys." Yeah.
And that's cool. I love when I learn things. I absolutely do. So going from there, then let's talk about the history of Elmwood Productions. So
Jess, you can tell him the whole thing. We started, like I said, me and some buddies were doing comics and things like that, and we thought we should make a movie, and we had this idea. We've still never made that movie, which is funny. And then I really got into my personal journey of like learning about puppets and puppetry and really getting involved, not just being a fan of like puppets and things, but really learning and becoming a sponge, going to puppet festivals, doing all that. And then around 2001, I moved out of Connecticut. All my friends were here. We were doing it here. I moved away for a year and a half, came back, and that year and a half was great because I lived somewhere where there was so much happening. I lived in Central Florida, and there was so much happening, not Central, but Tampa area, and there was so much happening with puppetry at that time, live television, things like that. I got to like just take in that area, and being so close to the theme parks and things like that. So much cool stuff happening, and I learned so much about building when I was down there, because I was pretty much solitude. Didn't hang out with a lot of people, kept to myself. Like, I knew I was going to be there forever, so I didn't want to like hang out, make all these friends, and then leave them. I have some friends I still talk to this day from down there, but like not like my friends that were up here. And as soon as I came back up, I connected with this buddy of mine, Russ, who he was always interested in doing puppet stuff too. And as soon as I saw him, the first time I saw him, the first words out of his mouth were, "When are we going to start making these puppet movies?" And that was it. We'd already been calling ourselves Elmwood Productions, but that was really, and then we started making a short film called Josh and Todd, which didn't get finished because we bit off more than we could chew. So we started doing this cable access show that the local cable access company refused to air because it was too much. It was too weird, but we did it, and that was like our high school education in puppet films. We built sets, we did everything, on our knees on the ground and the hands up, and had all the raised sets, and I was building all the puppets. And then we started Steve the Vampire, and when Steve the Vampire was the first one came out in 2006, it was just, things just started snowballing from there. The first short film came out. It was gonna be a one-off short. It was like a one-line joke. It was a punchline. Steve the Vampire lives with his mom, and the joke was, how miserable would a vampire be if they lived with their mom? We do one of these. Yeah, we'll do one of these. It'll be a short film. We'll move on with our lives and do something else. Then we went right back into doing the Josh and Todd, trying to bring that movie back, and that still took another 5 years to actually make that movie. But during that time, we made Steve the Vampire, and we shot tons of other stuff, including Josh and Todd, and like, that's the very brief version of the history. And then through Josh and Todd, we had this like lull. We did a couple more web series, and then we made the horror movie, which just blew us up in a way. We made Head, which is that's cool. Which was never meant to be the title of the movie, but it stuck. And and when that came out, it was just like all of a sudden, the horror community and the film community really embraced us for doing something different with puppets. Again, going back to how everyone thinks it's for kids. This R-rated horror movie comes out, and it's played completely straight. It's not like when they get cut, they bleed yarn. No, they cut, it's blood. We play it completely straight. The actors never wink at the camera like, "We're a puppet." No, it's just, it was written as if it was for actors, but we did it with puppets.
What made you decide to go edgier when it came to puppeteering?
I think that was like me and my friends at the time. This is my friends to this day. We love each other. We're a huggy group, huggy, touchy people. But we're also the first ones to like call each other F-bombs.
So gross.
Yeah. But we're like, somebody comes in, "What's up, you effing this, like
Yeah.
just making fun of each other. And that's kind of our humor. We there's like not a lot of boundaries with the humor with us. We wouldn't put all that on film necessarily, but
Yeah.
we're our humor is a little darker, and it worked into the films. It really started with Steve the Vampire because it's about this teenager who lives in his basement with his mom, and he's not a teenager anymore. He's like 50 or something, but he's been a vampire since he was 12, so he hasn't aged. And his mom is senile and thinks he's still a 13 or 12-year-old. And that leads to some humor because he's trying to get laid, he's trying to move out, he's trying to get away from his crazy old mom. And then Josh and Todd was a very R-rated thing, and it's the id and the ego. The puppet is a living id of the main character and ruins his life. And like Ted really ripped us off. We're convinced that somebody who made that movie Ted saw Josh and Todd first. So like, it's yeah, but it was just us. We didn't want to do the same thing. There's so many Muppet clones out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way to put it. If you go online right now and go on Facebook and look up like puppetry groups, 80%, maybe even more of what you're going to see are people wanting to do the Muppets. So much, in fact, they're the Juppets or the Duppets or the Wuppets. They just put a different letter in front of Uppet and call it their own thing. Like if Jess and I were new, it would be the Juppets because we're both J names. Like people would just, and so there's just all these Muppet clones out there, and it's just like, no, do something different. And we could have gone a different direction too, but it was just our humor.
Yeah.
Was edgy,
Well,
but
I liked your stuff. Like I checked it out before we did some of this. You definitely have a really cool indie vibe with the way you record and the way you add your, everything is very organic in the audio, in the cinematography. We were laughing about because I'm talking about Bernice 2 and how the remote control wheelchair and everything. And I like that. And then I saw the Steve the Vampire,
which is so lo-fi compared to what we're doing now.
Awesome. And I wanted to laugh, and I wanted to tell the listeners, because ladies and gentlemen, if I haven't mentioned it, I think I've mentioned about 4 or 5 times now, I am doing Vampires the Masquerade, and my name is Steve. So when I saw this, I started giggling like a little schoolgirl, and I was, and then it doesn't help the situation that the guy that got me into Vampires the Masquerade, Seth Pierce from Classic Gaming Brothers, decided that he knew John from the Elmwood Productions. He knows him, and
he might have even worked on like one of our films at some point. Like maybe
of course he did.
I don't know if I can't tell you for sure because we've had so many people like show up for one day just to help out because they were friends with somebody or something. And I knew him through other people who were working with us, but he was always like the coolest dude. I feel like he might be in the background in the scene in Josh and Todd or something. I could be wrong.
That nerd. Oh my God. I'm
going to give him so
much help.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But it's just so funny. I swear to God, like New England is just like everybody knows everybody, kind of like Connecticut is Cheers. It really is. You guys are absolutely, so you guys don't know this, but I'm not originally from here. I'm from all over Indiana, Virginia, you name it. So like coming to like Connecticut and coming to Gilmore Girls, Southington, Connecticut, because it really is. It's absolutely insane, and it blows my mind, like the connections that are, I mean, Jess, Tina, and Tina and I do D&D together, and I do it at Fable. But John from puppeteering, and John knows Seth, but I know, like, it's a Kevin Bacon joke. I swear to God, it really is. It's a Kevin Bacon joke. But sorry, going on that tangent, but it's welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But you guys do some really, really cool things, and I can't wait to look at it more. And I like the idea of your edginess to it. I like the R-rated because it appeals to the 6-year-old child in me that wants to watch the like every kid
the naughty things.
Yes, like the naughty things, like you did it, everybody knows. And so, but you just said, yeah, I'm going to make a profession out of this. I'm going to have this stuff and you do really, really well.
We did
like, I like this.
Like bringing Jess in, she worked on Bernice 2 first for like a day. I feel like, were you there 2 or 3 days maybe?
I was there a lot, but I only filmed like a day or two. Yeah.
That's when we were first bringing you in. It was just towards the end of the filming of the film. But then the next thing last year was a very mellow year for us overall because we had done Bernice the year before and we were kind of burnt out. Plus with COVID and everything, I think it was mentally burnt out with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So last year we took it easy and did all the music videos we promised the artists that did music for Bernice too. So we spent most of the year doing that, but we did a sequel to one of our short films called The Jungle Woman. And we had Jess come in and play the lead, which was a character that somebody else was already playing in the previous film. But since the character has a split personality, we had her take over the evil side. And we're not making fun of people with multiple personalities. Yeah. It was just, it's like a throwback to cheesy 80s horror movies. It's a short film. And where was I going with this now? Son of a bitch. But just going like to the edgy side. Like, and when you bring somebody new in, you don't know if they like, I don't know how much of our stuff Jess had seen. Like, I knew she was aware of us, but I wasn't 100% sure. And it was like, all right, there's some, like, the first scene is two puppets having sex, and the character Jess is playing kills them. Is she gonna be okay with that? And she was just like, yeah, this is fine. Like, I'm like, all right, she gets our humor. We're gonna be fine. This is gonna be fine. But then the next big project we're doing with her is one of the few family-friendly things we're doing, and she's nailing it in the rehearsals and stuff. So I'm so excited because the character is funny as hell, and she does a great job with it. So
thanks,
I love I do want to get into Jess too. Don't worry. Like, I know we keep going on origin stories, but
I got nothing.
That's recorded. You know that's recorded too.
Yeah, it's okay. It's our humor. This is our Elmwood plug.
Just like,
you want to hang with the Elmwood crew?
Oh my God, I love you guys. Yes. Oh. God, he's missing out on so much right now.
It's getting hot here.
I'm a professional, I swear to Christ.
Put a disclaimer on this.
Yeah.
We did it. Oh, don't worry. We did a boys episode. Like, we did NSFW on that. Don't worry. You guys are fine.
Okay, good. I've been very good not to swear yet. And I wanted to times, so.
You guys are fine. I'm going to say something. I'm going to regret it. I already know. We try to keep it as raw as possible with the audio. So, yeah. But
you're going to regret that.
So I wanted to just, kind of, damn you, Jess.
Oh, I'm sorry, kid. I just kicked my cat.
Oh, I'm scared, Penny.
I'm not even taking any of this out. I'm not even taking this out. I want you none of this. This is all going to be completely.
I do another show. I do a show once in a while with my buddy Rich about movies, and we'll go off on these stupid tangents.
Oh, we always do.
And then it's like, what movie were we even talking about? Yeah.
We do that all the time.
Tangents are where the magic happens.
It really is. That's where you get to see where the organics is of people. Like, you get to see what the true people are. But all right, so we're going to go back to the Elmwood Productions here. All right, so you like I said, you guys do a ton of stuff, and I think it's amazing. I like the edginess of it. I like the dark humor. I love everything about this, and I'm excited. I'm going to check out more. And like you said, you have Jess here, who is just absolutely incredible too.
Super talented, yeah.
And I was going to wrap up with her, but she's being pretty fresh over there.
Bounce around, yeah.
But Jess, like, you definitely do all of this. You do all the puppeteering, and like I said, when we originally first met, you were doing music. And I'm curious, how do you implement puppeteering into your music, or vice versa?
So John has a plan to bring some ukulele playing into this. Is it this character?
Yeah, depending.
Okay. So that might make an appearance, but as of yet, I haven't combined the two, except in our behind the scenes videos of every second shot is me dancing to music or singing or attempting to play an out of tune ukulele.
So welcome to the jungle.
Is this the John one?
Yeah. It's me playing Welcome to the Jungle on the ukulele. Is how it starts.
And it just goes out of tune immediately. Yeah. I mean, the family friendly show we're doing still has this very Looney Tunes humor, aimed to all ages. and you know, anvils and frying pans in the face, things like that. And the character we're having Jess play definitely is gonna have, definitely, I already got things she hasn't seen yet written with the character we're having her ukulele and things like that, because we think that she's such a good singer and she's using so much of her own voice in the character that makes sense. And the plan is to eventually make a feature film follow up to the show, and we want that to be a musical, like an old school Muppet movie. So
I
like,
like that.
yeah,
That's
if
awesome.
the next 2 seasons, we're doing 2 more seasons of it. If it goes over well enough, we'll make a movie to follow it up.
So at some point, my singing voice will go into Elmwood.
Yeah,
Okay.
At some point.
mine won't.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'll stick with the Scottish accents. I think that's where I strive at the best.
I can sing in character, but not with my voice.
uh, so going into your musical career, so how long have you been actually doing music?
My whole life.
Your whole life?
I was my mom was in a band when I was a little kid. Actually, their band performed at this old theater. I think it was John and I have talked about this. Is it a theater in Guilford? That's an old puppet theater.
The Stony Creek Puppet House.
There was some old theater that they were playing in, and I got locked backstage or lost backstage with all
That's
these
it.
life-size marionettes. Terrifying. Marionettes, scary. Muppets, not scary. It's the strings.
The dangle. Yeah.
The dangle. But so my mom was in a band, and we would be driving. Anytime we were driving in the car, we're listening to music. And my dad was a roadie for, you know, bands and stuff. And so my life has revolved around music. But when we would sing in the car together, my mom would train me to sing the harmonies. And anytime I slipped up, she'd be like, "You're flat, you're flat, you're flat, you're flat."
Wow.
And it really like scarred me for life. So now I sing very well. Because I hear that, like, but no, I learned how to harmonize from a young age, which then got me into choirs. And I throughout high school, I was very serious about singing in high school. I was part of the Connecticut All-State Choir, which was very fun. It's, you know, 400 elite students from all the regions of Connecticut put into one big choir, and over 3 days we learn about like an hour maybe not an hour, maybe 45 minutes worth of music in all different languages. And you have to be able to, you know, when you enter into the competition, you have to be able to read music and sing scales and all that good stuff. You have to be able to harmonize with people at the drop of a hat. So I was very disciplined in my singing. Got into college, sang in the choirs in college, and then had a slight mental breakdown where I switched my major to theater halfway through college. And I was like, if I'm gonna be here, I'm going. I want to do fun shit. So
okay.
I got into theater, and I did Rent. That was like the biggest show that I'd ever done. I did that for a whole year. I did 3 different productions of Rent, sang that way for a very, you know, for 525,600 minutes. I sang the songs from Rent. And
that's so bad.
Totally messed up my vocal cords.
Just shouting constantly.
And then couldn't sing for like a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty devastating. And so what you heard at Fable was, you know, that's years and years and years of trying to get back to where I was.
I'm sorry. Time out. No. Time
Yeah.
out. That's get back to where you were. I'm sorry. You can hear you in the back of the Fable episode, and you're beautiful. You have such a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
And like I legitimately mean this, and I swear on everything that we felt bad talking. Like I looked over at Kevin. I'm like, Kevin, do we need to shut up? Like she's singing, like people are listening, and it was dead quiet. Yeah.
I was there one time when she was playing, and it was awesome. And some customer decided to lean on a shelf mid-song
Oh,
and knocked the whole shelf over with all this glass on it, and it went towards Jess.
yeah.
And I remember looking over at her, and she's just playing. She goes, it's just like,
So I
so
think
don't feel so bad about making noise because that person tried to burn the building down.
Oh my God. But it was we re-edited so many times. Like we were just like, I'm like, shut up. Like we need to shut up, dude. And or he would be like, I think she's doing an important part. We should probably stop. I'm like, you're right. Hey, like it was, and he told me to tell you this. He felt so bad for stopping you so we could do the parade for the for the costumes. He's like,
Oh God, he shouldn't, because singing for 2.5 hours is very difficult.
I believe
Professional
it.
musicians don't do that. They have an opening act and then they play for an hour, maybe.
Or like if you see like a big band play and the singer will disappear throughout the show and go backstage and relax for a little bit, or another member will sing for a little bit. Like I don't know how many concerts you go to, but I'm a big concert nerd. And
Yeah.
Well, see, now we know how to implement it because you do your show, you do your first 30 minutes or hour, and then you have puppets come in like midway and they do their singing and they do their stuff. And then like you come back after like 25, 30 minutes after everybody's just tired of puppets. But like, and then you go back on and you just strum your uke.
I'll come in Jungle Man, just rap.
Yeah, there you
Yes.
go.
Jungle Man raps.
But so you play the ukulele. Do you play anything else? Not that that's not enough, but I'm just curious.
Let's see. I can play 3 chords on the guitar, not very well. I used to play the harmonica. I played it as like a young person, and then my parents were like, please stop playing that harmonica. I can play a few chords on the mandolin, which is pretty simple. As far as like making the chords, if you have little, for me it's easy because I have little hands, but
yes, we've talked about my sausage fingers.
Yes.
So I attempt to play the ukulele, but like D chord, I can't do it because my fingers are too fat.
You need a bigger ukulele, is what it is.
Mine's I think is as big as you can get before you go into like the bass ukes. I think it's
you have a baritone ukulele.
I think so. I'll have to. I can't say yes.
Get a
like,
tenor or a baritone ukulele, and you'll be able to make those shapes.
Okay, all right. I'll get on that.
But yeah, otherwise it's just vocals. I have a pretty well-tuned ear for harmonies, so a lot of times I was also in a band for a little while, but I always and even in choirs, like I sing background. I sing the backing vocals because my I can do lead, but my strength lies in being able to hear what other people are doing and elevate what they're doing.
Okay. Now, like I said, we heard you singing. Is this your first engagement as an individual artist, or are you?
Yeah.
So that was the first step.
You heard my second gig ever.
Shut up.
As a solo artist, yes, you heard my second gig.
Wow. All right, that's awesome. So where's the progression from there? What's your
Wembley?
What did you say?
She's playing Wembley Stadium next month.
Yeah, right. So I collaborate. I love to collaborate with people. Because again, I like to work with other people. So I have a very good friend, Jim Lopresti, who is a handpan artist. He's a multi-instrumentalist, but right now he's playing Gouda drums or handpans that he imports from Ukraine. And he makes a lot of like ethereal, sort of meditative music. And my first composition was done with him in collaboration. So I sing while he plays. And we've never actually recorded together in person. He sends me things and then I find the melody, and then from there I start layering in all the harmonies and stuff. So I've done like very teeny tiny little bits of production work. And as far as singing solo, I'll probably keep playing at Fable, but I really just like to be I like to be around my friends. I like to be around people that I know, especially after after the sort of it was small in the long run, I suppose, but like losing my voice while still doing shows and having to do that in front of people was devastating for my self-esteem and my confidence. So it's taken me a really, like, not only has it taken me a long time to build my muscles back up, but it took me a really long time to even be able to sit in my friend's store in a corner playing. You were, you know, kind of on the other side of the store and you could hear me, but what you couldn't see is that I have my eyes closed a lot of the time because I can't even like look, you know, I can perform in front of people. I can have, you know, be very public facing persona. But when it comes to like accompanying myself and being totally alone like that, like, oh no, the eyes are closed so that I can't see anybody looking at me.
I tell you what, I can definitely tell John is a cheerleader for you, and
Oh
I
yeah.
absolutely am 100% on board because I'm over here thinking, man, we've got you at Fable. I do D&D at Fable. I need to have you doing like some like tavern music in the background, just singing. Like, tell me that wouldn't be awesome. The immersion is already there. Like, I know
Yeah.
you don't do D&D. I know that's
No,
not
I
your
don't.
thing.
That's a little too nerdy for me.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Half of Elmwood at one point were big D&D players, so there was a level of we'd
I'm
always
just
see
kidding.
each other, but, yeah.
I would be your tavern wench. Like I could make that happen.
Tavern Bard. You're not the wench.
Yes.
The wench is the one behind the.
I'm the wench.
Okay, John is
I want to be the one. No.
Yes, John can be the wench. I'll be the bard. Yes, I'll be
You're gonna
the
wear
bard.
the corset and just have it like super tied up.
Uh-huh.
Hell yeah.
100%. Yeah. The chest hair is really gonna bring it home too.
I have no shame. I'll do anything for a laugh. When we were shooting Bernice, I walked around the studio one time with nothing but star pasties on. So like,
I would see. This is why we're gonna be friends.
And I'm not fit anymore.
It's okay.
I used to be, but not anymore. I let it go.
Look, I tell people like, you know, I'm getting in shape now, but round is a shape, and so that's the way I live my life. I'm just happening to be making a bet with some guys I work with, and so I'm competitive, which is so that's Daddy doesn't like to lose. That's what I, you know, but I love everything that you guys do. Seriously, you guys are absolutely amazing.
I really want to shout out John real quick because he's such a big cheerleader for me. John is the most supportive friend to me and the group, as well as like as a group, he's supportive of the entire group. He's supportive of all the individuals in the group.
Thank you.
And oh my God, like just one of the greatest humans alive. He shows up to people's gigs. He shouts us out on social media. He texts us to see how we're doing. We just have like ongoing text threads, again, as individuals and sometimes as groups. And he's constantly updating all of us on what everybody else is doing. Like he is just like, he is the center point of Elmwood Productions, and just his friend group. He's an incredible person.
Thank you.
Incredible person. And we are so gross and dirty in our humor and the fun things we do. Gross and dirty in just like the best way. But
I like her little feralness with it too.
Like, so feral. But I walked into Elmwood and they were worried that I wasn't gonna be like, they were like, okay, is it going to be too intense for her? Like, what's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. And like, I knew right away I had to make several really dirty jokes, just like one after the other, to be like, I am here for what you have. And throughout all of that, I've never been, especially because it's, you know, the majority of them are men. So it can be at first intimidating as a young woman, you know, or younger, I guess, woman, being in a group of people like that. But they are in all their, like, in our shared crassness, there's never been a moment where like there was any discomfort, you know, like they are just the coolest. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that like John is just like a walking heart of gold.
Pretty self-depreciating too with the humor, so I think that might help a little. So I'm the first one to make fun of myself, like
definitely.
So, and really make fun of myself, like
you got to. Oh, you got
always
to.
Mm-hmm.
Listen. Listen, no one has a smaller penis than me. Don't be jealous. I know I'm bragging, but
Hung like a field mouse in
like
winter
a pimple.
in a snowstorm.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it's just like, but like, yeah, that's the kind of humor you get with us.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love, dude. I love
And then
that
we're always,
so
but
much.
honestly, when we bring new people in, we're always like, okay, tonight it's been good behavior. We can't say our best because we know we're gonna somebody's gonna say something
Yeah.
stupid. Like Tricky is always gonna push the edge. We have one guy in our group named Tricky, and he's always gonna push it over the edge just to
Yes.
see what happens.
Mhm.
You know, and then he'll like apologize or he'll like go, but normally
He's so quiet and so mild mannered, and he
and
is
then he
the
says the most
grossest of us all.
obnoxious shit. Like borderline, like, dude, are you okay? You know?
This is a cry for help.
Yeah. Like, but
like all we do
whenever
is
somebody new
laugh when we're
comes in,
together.
so whenever somebody new comes in, we're always like that. And I remember that with Jess being like, all right, we don't really know her. We know her through Keith too, and like let's just. And the theater thing can be a little different than what we do. And a lot of theater people are interested in puppetry, so we've had a lot of people come in, and they're expecting something completely different out of it, even when we're on our best behavior. So it's like we don't want to scare anybody away, but we want to make sure that they can gel. And Jess was like immediate gel. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where can the good people out in the internet find you? Start John with Elmwood Productions. Where can they find you guys?
We're on all social media as Elmwood Productions. The only one we don't really use, I think, is TikTok, but we have one. But Facebook, Instagram, updated regularly. Facebook almost daily, it seems like right now. We're really kind of like doing reruns right now through our social media, showing old stuff because we're working on new stuff. But elmwoodproductions.com is our website. From there, you can like buy merch, you buy our movies, you know, buy soundtrack, no, just movies right now, and t-shirts and stuff like that. And YouTube is the one we're really pushing. Just if you look up at Elmwood Productions on YouTube, we come up. Everything's free on YouTube. We don't charge on YouTube, which is great. We don't do advertising. So if you see an ad, it's YouTube putting on it, not us. We have not monetized, but even if we can, we won't. It's not worth the hassle of dealing with it, how little you get paid. So we keep it free. The one movie Head that we were talking about earlier, that's on Amazon, on Tubi, on Vudu. It's also on YouTube free with ads, but the distributor picked it up, puts the ads on it. So we do get some of that money, but that was through the distributor. And that's available on DVD as well. So is Bernice. And Bernice is only available on DVD right now. We went completely old school. It's not streaming anywhere. It's not on YouTube yet. We're still going through the festivals with it. So if you put it out online, you lose the festivals.
I get
But
that.
we do have a limited amount of DVDs. I got a bookshelf full of them right there. I'll show you one. But yeah, YouTube and Facebook.com, all that. But Bernice.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, I was cracking up laughing watching the trailer.
Good.
I enjoyed it.
It's sketch comedy, music infused sketch comedy. If anybody's wondering what the movie's about, because the trailer doesn't really give you anything other than if you laugh. So it doesn't tell you what the movie's about. It's just like SNL with puppets, but with a lot of music mixed in.
It's also a secretly beautiful movie.
Thank you. It is.
It is a secretly like art house beautiful, even though it was done like tongue in cheek, it really does come across that way.
Some of it was meant to be completely sincere too, which I'm proud of. When we first started, it was going to be bombastic, over the top, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And we had to pull back on some of the ideas. So we were saving those for another movie. And we went with the more sweeter side, but some of it's just outright, like you said, goofy and sarcastic.
I like
That's still Elmwood, but it's PG-13. It's not R either. I think there's not a single F-bomb in the movie, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing we've ever done.
That's awesome. And Jess, where can the good people out in the internets find you, madam?
Oh geez. Okay. So I do have a website. It's jessrowling.work, and that has all of my information as far as like what I do vocationally as a teacher, and it also has pictures of my dog, Doug. And I do have an Instagram. It is private, but I mean, depending on, you know, after I screen people, maybe I'll let them follow me. It's Jess with 3 S's _ moves, MOVES. And yeah, I don't post a lot of like stuff to my main page, but I do post stories almost every day. They're usually of Doug being very entertaining. And I do post a lot of ukulele videos up there though.
Nice.
Just for funsies. There's also the last thing I posted on my page is a recording of me singing 13 by Big Star. It's a recording of me and all these layered harmonies, and Doug makes a surprise appearance howling through the song. And it's our first collaboration, and we're very proud of it.
You should be. You should be. It's romantic. I like it.
Yeah. And if people want to get in touch, especially fellow musicians who think we might be a good fit, or fellow theater artists who have different projects that they want to do. I love collaborating with people. I love making friends.
That's awesome.
I'm going to piggyback on that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
We make custom puppets for people as well. The links are on our website as well. We don't mind if people need stuff. We do video work and things like that too. For the people. We made tons of
their music video work is really great.
That was fun. Yeah, we do commercials. We're shooting one next week. Like with and things like that, and educational videos, instructional videos we've done. So we have like a whole industrial side that we don't really promote as much, but that kind of helps pay our bills, really.
Yeah, no, I apologize for not asking about that earlier.
I didn't think of it because I'm custom puppet
I know making. We're having so much fun.
Yeah,
right.
But the link is there for custom puppet making too. I do that. That's also helps keep us going. So
absolutely. And dude, I Jess, John, I absolutely want to have you guys back on the show again. You guys have been an absolute joy to have on.
We
Seriously.
Are quite fun.
You are quite fun. Well, not to stroke your egos just a little bit, but you know. So let's go ahead and let's wrap this up on our side. As always, please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you're listening to podcasts. And if you are listening to us on Apple or Spotify, please remember to rate and review. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, so please like and follow us at DNA Pod or on our webpage, nerddnapod.com. I'm your host, Steve Pugh. And I have been humbled. I have been faltered. I have been just absolutely stuck on my words by these two amazing people, Jess Rowling and John Bristol. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. Elmwood Productions and Jess, who is just phenomenal musician. Go out there, go find them, go check them out, guys, and go support them. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight, guys. Seriously.
Thank you.
And thank you, and good night.